if you are going to make a bill for us, make sure it's not taxed. Make sure it's not the just, oh, we're going to give y'all $10,000. Oh, we're going to give y'all $1,000,000. Like, you got to read the small print. That's all I want us to know is with anything that we're given, we have to read the small print. Because most times when people give you anything, even the medicines that we take, the small print is like, you can die, you can have a stroke, this might cause your liver to bleed, this might give you headaches, this might make your leg go numb, this might, you know what I'm saying? Like, so it's like we have to be more focused on understanding what the small print is. So I think that's another thing. I do think the start of it is strong Black families, but I also think and even we can understand their game so that we know how they're playing it, but we still have to somehow make our own rules.
Even if we got those reparations, what is going to keep them from taxing the mess out of that? Like, so a lot of times, like when we talk about things, because even when you talk about yesterday, there was another conversation, and it was like we are at a better place as Black people than we were, like, I think they said like 50 years ago or however long ago. But then when you kind of put in inflation with that, and then you put in credit and all of that other stuff, that are we really at that same, are we really better? So in essence, it's kind of like I feel that we have a sense of that we want to operate from their system instead of going in and creating our own kind of system. Because are we ever going to survive in their, I'm going to even say survive, we can survive in their system, but are we ever going to flourish in their system?
No, never. Even with the whole idea, and I get it because it's cringy to think about polygamy, the whole idea of America saying that the nuclear family is where it's at and that's the only way you can have a successful family, that is a direct shot at the African American community, because they know we don't have enough men for every woman to benefit from the nuclear family. So no, we can't play their games, because don't get me wrong, some of us can win. Maybe 1 out of every 1,000 can win playing their game. But the game isn't set up for all of us to thrive. It's just not. Because if tomorrow all the Black men say, okay, we're going to go marry all the eligible Black women, there's still going to be like 3-4 million Black women unwed. No man to take care of their kids, to take care of them. So there is no way that we can win playing their game. Some of us can win, maybe 1 or 2 of us can win, but if I'm the only person that's winning and I'm the only person that got out the fire and the whole house is still burning, is that really a win?
But that's not the only way though, Sherelle. You got to take into account to other factors that goes into building up the community. So you can't just put it all on building, a strong family structure, which I preach that. That's what my channel's about. So yeah, that's not the only factor that could put in. Just like you said, put it in a seed. Starts with a seed. There's different factors that go into it. So yeah, go ahead.
Right. And even what Maya was saying about them taxing it, you know that do people know that if you buy land and you put an animal on the land, you can't get taxed? You don't have to pay property taxes because you'll be considered agriculture. Do you know that the Amish people, which I drive trucks and I never knew these people existed, but like literally they let them be on the streets and you cannot run them over, but they really ride horses and buggies around the streets, right? Those people aren't getting taxed. There are special groups of people who have came with it, but that's financial literacy. That's what I'm saying? That's the understanding that we need to have, that literacy, that, okay, if you are going to make a bill for us, make sure it's not taxed. Make sure it's not the just, oh, we're going to give y'all $10,000. Oh, we're going to give y'all $1,000,000. Like, you got to read the small print. That's all I want us to know is with anything that we're given, we have to read the small print. Because most times when people give you anything, even the medicines that we take, the small print is like, you can die, you can have a stroke, this might cause your liver to bleed, this might give you headaches, this might make your leg go numb, this might, you know what I'm saying? Like, So it's like we have to be more focused on understanding what the small print is. So I think that's another thing. I do think the start of it is strong Black families, but I also think and even we can understand their game so that we know how they're playing it, but we still have to somehow make our own rules. And I think that in the Black community we do, but sometimes it's just not positive. If we can switch some of the negative things that we do into positive, we already have the strength. We already have.
We're too busy trying to, that was my point. That's why I let Cheryl go. That was my point to when I was talking about the 10 times harder thing, right? 10 times harder than who? Because this is what I'm talking about. We're too busy trying to sit at people's table, right? We're too busy and occupied with becoming, and that's where the 10 times harder thing comes in. My solution for that is people need to individually begin to unplug from these things, because when you say 10 times harder, right? Let me tell you what I hear. I hear by any means necessary, right? So that means you go into the workplace, your beautiful natural hair now has to become something else so that you could thrive in that environment, right? Now, the way you speak becomes an issue. You have to be very careful. And if you do the research around code switching and how stressful it is on the bodies and the minds of people, then that's a whole nother conversation to be had. Black people have been told for forever in this society that they are less than human. And I think the 10 times harder thing factors in that. You're working as hard because you're trying to prove to somebody that you're human. So it begins with us knowing first that we are human beings, right? So that's more so working from the inside out than the outside in. The inside out would be like, I am a human being. Okay, what does that mean for me now? And begin to redefine ourselves. Someone talked about I don't know who said it, but we were talking about being in the system. And so the first thing that comes to my mind, I'll give you an example. There's a lot of things that are just culturally Black people, right? That they've made the most hoodlum people define as hood. Okay? The most hoodlum people, the most violent people on the face of the earth. Yes, I said it. We've allowed them to define us as the most violent, as the most hoodlum. Let me give you an example. For example, you have Black people that say, oh, you so loud, that means you're ghetto. The reality is, I tell Black Americans all the time, y'all need to go sit among some Caribbean people who do not live in the United States. Go travel over to West Africa and sit among some people talking about politics. You're going to see the same loud people sitting down having conversation, laughing loudly. It has nothing to do with being hood. Absolutely nothing. But we've allowed, and this is what I'm talking about, where we're so focused on acclimating or trying to align ourselves or fit in to somebody else's paradigm. Okay, and that's my pushback on the 10 times more thing. I get it. We are in a system, but when do we begin to have a conversation around there is something diabolically wrong with the system? Our people are dying at the end of the day, and we still want to be complacent and say, well, this is what we have to do. This is what we got to do. And my thing is like, when do we pull the bottom out? And when I say pull the bottom out, I'm saying because they have Black people as the bottom of the totem pole, right? When do we remove ourselves and let the whole thing collapse? When do we decide to do that? When do we decide to say, yeah, my natural hair might be ugly to you, but I'm going to rock it, right? When do we begin to say, no, my skin is not too dark? When do we begin to say that? When do we begin to change these things? When do we begin to become more self-sufficient? Versus just saying, no, this is the only way to success. That's the other thing too. Someone has given us the definition of success and we've accepted it. And so you have Black people saying, well, if I can't have access to this, then I can't be successful. I do accept and realize we live in a system. My take and the way my angle is more so around, when do we start to push back and maybe not push back, but unplug from that system, because the reality is, as long as we are participating in it, we are keeping it going, and it will continue to kill us. Because guess what? Capitalism needs a poor class. It needs a class to be maintained. When we talk about that, capitalism directly connected to slavery, somebody has to work hard for it to be maintained. Somebody has to be at the bottom.
Right.
So my thing is focusing on what is the paradigms that we are refusing to shift and dismantle. What are the systems that are set against us that we are still participating in to our own detriment? That's where I'm coming from when we were talking about the 10 times harder piece. Also, one more thing. Around movements, I know someone was saying that we need this, we might need, I think Colette was mentioning, and I don't know that I disagree with Colette. I completely know where she's coming from, where she was like, the money needs to go to, like, maybe, do we have an organization or something of that sort? I still say give Black people the money, because the reason why I say that is because we have this thing around, we create celebrities out of our leaders, right? And we create this whole savior thing around people who are quote unquote leaders. And so when those leaders die or they get taken out, then the movement dies with them. And we really have to shift how we develop our movements and start building them around one individual, right? We have to take on the message. We have to internalize it. We have to become whatever the message is of the movement, so that the person, maybe the person who started it, if that person is no longer there, the movement continues. You get what I'm saying? Almost like, and I know y'all don't come for me, almost like Christianity, you know? Jesus done been gone, you know? But then people still knocking on your door trying to convert you. Why? Because the movement continues. What he came to teach continues. I think there's something to be said about that. And I think when I look at the movements that Black people have had across the globe, oftentimes it ends up becoming the leader becomes celebrity. And I think that actually works against us. I think it's counterproductive, actually. But that's just my take on that.